There was a time pretty recently, actually, when a bunch of so-called crypto experts had already written off XRP for dead. You had the usual crowd of smug Bitcoin maxis and the anti-XRP brigade foaming at the mouth, declaring it finished. XRP was tanking to some of the lowest levels we'd seen compared to Bitcoin, and people were acting like it was just a matter of time before it fell out of the top 10 entirely. But fast forward a year, and wow. Just look at the turnaround. XRP didn't just survive, it thrived. It's now widely recognized as a top performer in this crypto market cycle. In fact, since the last US election back in November, XRP has outpaced every other coin in the top 100 by market cap. Yeah, it's sitting at the #1 spot. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if it finishes the cycle as the top gainer. Maybe it holds on to first place. Maybe it doesn't. But even if it slips, I'd bet it stays right up there near the top. So now that we've established XRP's dominance, let's dive into the big question. How high can this rocket fly? When and where will XRP's peak price hit? Well, as you'd expect, price predictions are all over the place. Depends on who you ask. Some respected analysts like Blockchain Backer are calling for somewhere in the $8 to $10 range. On the flip side, there are others who believe XRP could blow past $30. Realistically, it may land somewhere in between. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. But then there's the timing. When does this cycle top out? A couple of analysts are suggesting that we're looking at a climax sooner than most people expect, possibly mid-August, maybe stretching into early September. And with July almost behind us, that's not far off at all. Even Blockchain Backer recently pointed out, though not as a firm prediction, that we might be just weeks away from XRP reaching its peak. Historically, these sudden surges have happened quickly, so it's worth paying attention. And let me tell you, XRP is looking primed. If you're still doubting its potential to push higher from here, I honestly don't know what else to tell you. Look, I'm not claiming to have a crystal ball, never have. But if we're talking probabilities, it seems far more likely than not that XRP's about to go full beast mode and absolutely tear through the charts. Seriously, how can you not see it? Now, before I go any further, quick disclaimer. I'm not a financial advisor. I've got zero formal background in finance. I'm just a crypto enthusiast who loves sharing thoughts and making videos about the space. It's all for fun, so please don't make any financial decisions based on what I say here. One of the big indicators that alt season might be kicking off: a drop in Bitcoin's market dominance. Now, that doesn't mean Bitcoin's price has to fall far from it. In fact, BTC can keep climbing, but what we want to see is its share of the overall crypto market shrinking. And that's exactly what's been happening. Just take a look at the chart. It's sliding fast. The dominance has already slipped by about 5 percentage points from its recent high near 66%. That may not sound like a lot, but in crypto terms, that's significant. It's the kind of shift that gets altcoin lovers excited. So the real question becomes, will this trend continue? Because if it does, well, you know what that means. Alt season could be upon us, folks. And if that's the case, XRP is lined up to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, winners in that environment. Now, check this out. Crypto chart analyst Dom recently pointed out something pretty important. He noted that Bitcoin dominance has reached a crucial level, a convergence zone formed by two long-standing uptrend lines, previous support zones, and even the annual RVWAP. In his words, a breakdown from this level could send altcoins into blast-off mode. But a bounce? That could mean a rough ride for alts, more like flushing them down the drain. So what's it going to be? Even if we're just talking about the short term, there's a real chance that Bitcoin dominance could reverse and head higher again, which, unfortunately, could put some pressure on altcoins. It's a moment of tension. Do outsoar or get smacked down? We're about to find out. Now let's take a look at a recent post from chart analyst Mikey Bull Crypto. He had something to say about Bitcoin dominance too. He flagged what he called a possible dead cat bounce in Bitcoin's dominance levels, suggesting that if that's what we're seeing, alt season could be right around the corner. He dropped that post early in the morning, around 6:24 a.m. on Tuesday, and at that time, Bitcoin dominance had made a bit of a move. It had dipped down to roughly 60.3%, then popped back up to about 61.15% when he made the post. Now, Mikey's theory was, that bounce? It's not sustainable. He was hinting that this might just be a fake-out move before dominance resumes its fall and alts take off. But looking at it now as I'm recording this, I've got to say, if that's a dead cat bounce, it's not exactly jumping off the charts. It barely budged. Dominance is hovering just under 61%, maybe right around that mark, depending on the exact moment. So has it cooled off again? Are we heading lower from here? Or is Bitcoin dominance gearing up for a bigger breakout? That's the million-dollar question. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out. As of right now, at the time I'm recording this, it hasn't been confirmed that Bitcoin dominance is continuing downward. But honestly, we've seen small bumps like this before during previous downtrends, even just in the last few days. So again, time will tell. If dominance does keep dropping though, buckle up, my friends. That's when things could get really exciting. Now, check out this post from chart analyst Dalia Martinez. She shared that after breaking out of its previous channel, Bitcoin recently hit its first price target at $121,000. Right now, it's consolidating at that level, but based on current buying strength, she says there's a good chance the uptrend might continue. If momentum stays strong, the next levels to watch are $131,000, $144,000, and $157,000. Now that $157,000 range, that's kind of the sweet spot a lot of analysts point to when they're aiming for a more middle-of-the-road forecast. Some experts have been calling for a peak between $120,000 and $125,000, which is pretty much where we are now. Others, they're still expecting a surge up to $180,000 or even $200,000. So, if it ends up somewhere in the middle, say around $150,000, that wouldn't be a shock at all. And here's the thing. I've never made hard price predictions, and I'm not about to start now. I don't pretend to know exactly how this will play out, but I will say this. If Bitcoin hits anywhere near that $150,000 mark, which seems like a realistic middle ground scenario, it's hard for me to imagine a world where XRP doesn't at least crack into the double digits. That would honestly be surprising, because if BTC runs that high, there will be a massive amount of capital flooding the crypto space. And XRP? It would only need to 3x from where it is now to hit those double-digit prices, and that's before we even get into a full-blown altcoin rally. So no, this isn't some moonboy fantasy. We've seen these kinds of gains in crypto history before. If Bitcoin continues flying, XRP's ride might just be getting started. So here's something interesting from Mikey Bull Crypto. He made a solid point. He said the true euphoria phase of this cycle will begin once Ethereum breaks its all-time high. And that's why I keep circling back to Ethereum in these videos. I might not go on and on about it, but I do bring it up consistently and for good reason. Because historically, Ethereum leading the charge has signaled the start of alt season. And Mikey thinks once ETH breaks out, we could see a run-up to somewhere between $7,000 and $10,000. Then, boom comes the next massive bear market. But let's just imagine for a second. If Ethereum actually hits $10,000, which, to be fair, is a common forecast among chart analysts, and XRP were to match Ethereum's market cap at that point. You'd be looking at $20 XRP. And here's the thing, it's not that far-fetched. It's kind of funny. Some people will scoff at the idea of $20 XRP, acting like it's total fantasy. But then, in the same breath, they'll casually say, "Oh yeah, $10,000 Ethereum sounds legit." Okay, do you hear yourselves? What they're ignoring is that XRP has historically matched Ethereum's market cap before. So it's not some made-up scenario. There's precedent. And if it happens again, that's a $20 XRP. Plain and simple. Honestly, I think some folks just lack vision. They can't picture something until it's already happened, and by then, it's too late. Now sure, after this euphoria phase, a bear market will follow. That's how cycles work. And yeah, it'll be bittersweet when the hype starts to fade, because this part, the run-up, it's exciting. It's fun. It's what we live for in crypto. But here's the silver lining. Markets are where the real wealth gets built. That's when everything's on clearance. It's when the smart money loads up. Buying at peak euphoria? That's not how you get rich. It's how you get wrecked. Even if you manage not to make a dumb decision, the upside's just not there. Too much risk, too little reward. But buying in the bear market? That's where the magic happens. And when the next one rolls around, you better believe I'll be back at it, scooping up more XRP and loading up on outs. Hopefully by then, I'll have sold the bag near the top, and then it's rinse and repeat. And I'll be right here on the channel doing it with you all over again. If you're down to ride this thing out with me, we'll go through it together cycle after cycle. Let's build something ridiculous. Not just now, but again next time. Man, I'm having an absolute blast right now. Hope you are too. So check this out. A fresh post from chart analyst Mustache caught my eye. He shared a chart known as Others BTC, which tracks the performance of the top 125 cryptocurrencies by market cap, excluding the top 10, compared to Bitcoin. And what's wild? That chart is forming a massive falling wedge, a pattern that's been developing for 4 straight years. And it still hasn't broken out yet. Mustache suggests we're on the verge of a full-blown altcoin breakout, and honestly, he's not alone in thinking that. Plenty of other analysts have pointed to the same thing. Historically, when altcoins get this undervalued compared to Bitcoin, they don't stay down for long. If you're not looking at your screen right now, and you're not driving or operating heavy machinery, do yourself a favor. Pull it up. This is what's coming. Markets repeat patterns. History doesn't repeat perfectly, but it sure does rhyme. CryptoWizard echoed this sentiment too. He posted the same Others BTC chart, showing exactly where we are now and how it mirrors what happened in 2021 and 2017 during the previous 2 cycles. His message? History repeating. He's suggesting the bottom is likely already in, and we've started to climb. Out season could already be underway. Look, this isn't shocking. I've said it all year, especially when Ethereum was in the gutter earlier in 2024. Markets bottom out, they always do. It's what they do unless something's fundamentally broken, which isn't the case here. Let me put it this way. When XRP was sitting at record lows against Bitcoin a year ago, people thought it was finished. Same story with ETH earlier this year, down at $1,400. Everyone was writing it off. The ETH BTC chart looked awful, and folks were screaming that it was game over. Except it wasn't. These assets weren't broken. They were undervalued. And when things get that undervalued, bottoms form. That's exactly what's happening now with the broader altcoin market. The Others chart again. The top 125 coins minus the top 10 shows they're priced as poorly as they've been in years. This is the phase where people get scared, declare everything dead, and miss the massive run that comes next. Altcoins are poised to explode from here. Bitcoin? Not so much. The upside just isn't there the same way anymore at this point in the cycle. But altcoins? They're loaded with opportunity. You can literally see in previous cycles how violently this other's chart has moved once it bottomed out. It's happening again, same setup, same pattern. History rhyming. Markets find bottoms. Period. Now let me throw in another gem, another post from CryptoWizard. He dropped a chart showing XRP priced against Solana and Ethereum. And wow, look at it. It tells the story. Remember when everyone had written off XRP? It was supposedly done, underperforming everything. But now it's crushing it. CryptoWizard put it perfectly. The sleeping giant awoke. He pointed out that XRP has outpaced ETH and SOL this year, and he expects that trend to continue. When XRP was down at 30 cents, no one cared. Nobody listened. They faded it. But now people suddenly want it at $3.50. And if it hits $10 this cycle, you can bet they'll be begging for it. That's how this works. That's how human psychology works in markets. When XRP was at 20 cents, 30 cents, even 50 cents, nobody wanted it. They saw the low price and assumed it was garbage. But now that it's moving, everyone's paying attention. It's always the same. Retail chases green candles. They buy when it's already pumped. And when prices crash, they disappear. They get emotional, buy high, sell low, rinse and repeat. That's the typical retail investor cycle, and it's why most people never get rich in this space. So take this however you want. I'm not giving you financial advice, and I never will. But I will say, if you follow the crowd, you'll probably end up with the same results they always get, which isn't much. Here's a post from chart analyst Bark, and he makes an interesting point. He said, XRP is still recovering from years of price suppression. We haven't even seen a real pump yet. Now, look, I get where he's coming from, but I'd personally say we have seen some pretty serious moves this cycle. We've absolutely seen XRP pump. But that said, I agree with the spirit of what he's saying. The biggest moves are still ahead of us. That part, I'm totally on board with. And I've been saying this for a while. XRP is still dealing with the aftermath of years of being artificially suppressed. That lawsuit from the SEC? It didn't just hurt Ripple, it damaged XRP holders all over the globe. And if that legal battle had never happened, I believe the price of XRP right now, at this exact moment, would be dramatically higher. Why? Because think about all the potential investors who avoided XRP entirely for the better part of 5 years. We'll never know the exact number, but it's clearly massive. That lawsuit stalled momentum, scared people away, and kept capital from flowing into the asset. Remember, XRP was the only top 10 crypto that didn't hit a new all-time high during the last bull run. Every other major coin soared. XRP, it stayed grounded. But under normal circumstances without the lawsuit, I'm confident it would have joined the party easily. Even the lows would have been higher. Take the bottom of this cycle, June 2022, when XRP dipped to 28 cents. Without all the legal baggage, that bottom would have been much higher. And if you're asking me, XRP might have touched $10 last cycle had it been allowed to move freely, just like everything else. So yeah, Bark is right. We're still recovering. But you know what? That's not a bad thing, because the opportunity is still on the table. We haven't missed it. We're seeing the recovery unfold right now. And that, my friends, is exciting, because what comes next could be massive. Let's be real. XRP has never looked better from a fundamental standpoint. It's not going anywhere. In fact, it's stronger than ever. Here's something worth noting from Crypto Insight UK. He pointed out that if XRP starts breaking out from where it's sitting right now, it could trigger a massive move. We're talking about XRP outperforming the broader crypto market by over 100%. He highlighted the XRP-BTC trading pair, which is now hovering just under a critical resistance level. And if that resistance breaks, there's wide open space above, which could allow XRP to absolutely take off. Look at the XRP-BTC chart. Remember the days leading up to the last election? XRP was severely oversold, sitting at its lowest relative value to Bitcoin in years. And back then, I said it straight up. This is what opportunity looks like. I wasn't calling a specific bottom date, but I said historically, this was the zone to be paying attention to. And guess what? Boom. XRP launched off that level like a rocket. Now we're eyeing the next leg up, and I'm telling you, XRP is just getting warmed up. Performance-wise, it's about to wipe the floor with Bitcoin. And yeah, I'll say it. Bitcoin is XRP's punching bag this cycle. It's just facts. Now flip over to the XRP dominance chart, also shared by Crypto Insight UK. At the time of his post, XRP dominance was sitting around 5.47%, and it was also brushing up against a major resistance level. If that resistance gets shattered, we could see dominance double or even triple. And here's where the math gets exciting. If the total crypto market cap stays the same, that kind of move could mean 2x or 3x gains for XRP. But if the entire crypto space grows, which it probably will, then the impact is multiplied even more. A jump to, say, 15% dominance could easily translate into a 6x price increase. That's how we get to $20 XR, but not by magic. Just basic market mechanics. We are so well positioned right now. Seriously, this is what sitting pretty looks like. Now let's move over to something chart analyst Crypto shared. He's tracking XRP on the weekly XRP ETH chart, and what's forming? An inverse head and shoulders pattern, a classic bullish breakout signal. Now sure, in the short term, XRP can sometimes lag behind ETH. That's normal. We even saw that happen recently. And I called it before it happened. It makes perfect sense. Ethereum was undervalued at around $1,400. And when it rallied to $3,800, of course XRP temporarily dipped against it. Even if XRP holds steady against the dollar, when ETH pumps, XRP ETH falls. That's just math. But here's the thing, XRP doesn't stay behind for long. It always catches up, and it eventually dominates. ETH had to shine a bit, sure, because it was so heavily discounted. But now that it's had its moment, well, XRP's turn is here. And by the time this market cycle peaks, Ethereum's going to be XRP's sidekick. Just how it is. Here's a great post from X-Force Global that really puts things in perspective. He said it's wild to think we're only about 10% away from hitting $4 XRP and just 200% away from $10. Let that sink in for a second. We're that close. Just one more surge of fresh liquidity entering the market, and that could be all it takes. Game over. And he's spot on. The power of compounding gains in crypto is insane. That next injection of money? It's coming. And it won't be from the savvy early investors. Nope, it'll be the lemming retail crowd, chasing green candles, jumping in late, driven by FOMO. You know how it goes. They see something pump, they panic buy, and they push prices even higher. That's the next wave. That's the liquidity burst we're waiting for, and it's coming whether anyone likes it or not. So strap in. This thing isn't done yet. Let me bring up a post I've referenced before from Crypto Michael. This one dates back to July 16, 2024, when XRP was trading around 58 cents. His message: XRP historic breakout incoming. He went on to say that in all his years in the crypto space, he'd never seen a 7-year-long bull pant, and that what we were witnessing could be one of the biggest breakouts in the history of crypto. And you know what? He was absolutely right. At that time, XRP had just broken out of what was nearly a 7-year symmetrical triangle, and when it popped hard. Fast forward to today, and he reposted that same message, now saying, "I told you to buy XRP at 30 cents, at 50 cents, at $1.30, at $2. It won't stay under $4 much longer." And he's right again. Once the FOMO wave hits full throttle, it'll be relentless. Because that's how people work. They don't want assets when they're cheap and undervalued. They want them when they're already flying, because then it feels safe. When prices go up, people assume they'll just keep rising. But when prices drop or go sideways, they assume it'll never come back. Welcome to human psychology. But if you can recognize that pattern and refuse to play that game, you're already ahead of 95% of retail speculators. Be the weirdo. Be the person who buys when no one else wants to. Not that kind of weird, keep it classy, but weird in your investment behavior. Because the weirdos who go against the crowd, they're the ones who get rich. Look at this post from Blockchain Baby from back in May 15th. She asked, XRP to $4? She believed it was possible, and we're still waiting, but clearly inching closer. She recently reposted and said, "You missed the bottom." She's not wrong. XRP was hovering in the low $2 range, and yet many people gave up after months of sideways movement. That's another classic investor mistake. Impatience. Oh, it's not moving, so I'm out. Then the breakout happens, and they're left watching it fly. That's why, personally, when I want to invest in a new asset, I use new money. I don't sell existing positions to chase the next shiny object. If I want something new, I take money I've earned recently and allocate that, because I admit I don't know what's going to happen next. That's just being honest. And here's the brutal truth. You are your own biggest obstacle. Tinkering with your portfolio, panic selling, FOMO buying, trying to time the market. It's all emotional behavior. And it almost always ends badly. But if you can avoid those traps, you're in a great position. And that's why I stick to this principle. New money for new coins. I don't rob Peter to pay Paul. I invest broadly, stay patient, and ride it out, however long it takes. If things dip, so be it. When the market turns, it'll all come back in spades. Now here's a fun post from XRPunky from this morning. He said, "Give me a hell yeah if you think XRP hits a $4, $5 weekly candle by this week's close." Now, of course, no one can time these things perfectly. But we're clearly in the final stretch of this bull cycle. So conversations like this, totally fair game. It could literally happen any day now. When we're buried in a bear market, it's not worth speculating about price. But now, we're at the stage where a major move can happen overnight. It's fun to talk about it, and it's not even unrealistic. Check out another post from chart analyst Zoom. He pointed out that alt season is just kicking off, and XRP is already trading above its previous all-time highs. That's huge. If we're just now entering the alt season and XRP is already flying, how high does it go when things really take off? My guess? Way higher. Zoom also mentioned that XRP's current structure mirrors the 2017 bull run. He claims that's why he was able to call the second breakout 4 weeks in advance. And if this cycle continues following that pattern, XRP could peak by end of September. And that doesn't mean it has to wait until then. It could top sooner. To be clear, he's not making a guaranteed prediction. He's just saying if this fractal plays out like 2017, that's the timeline we might expect. Totally reasonable. XRP actually responded to that and said, well, if it's based on the 2017 fractal, shouldn't the top be around mid-August instead? And he could be right. It really just depends on where you're anchoring the pattern and how you overlay it. Either way, both analysts agree on one thing. We're in the final stage of this bull run. Whether we peak in a week, a month, or 6 weeks from now, we are nearing the end. And you can feel it in the energy, in the price action, in the volume. This is the euphoric phase. And yes, it's going to be bittersweet when it ends. But this is what we came here for. This is the moment when lifelong wealth is built. This is the profit-taking window we've been waiting for. And the best part? You get to do it again. Because when this cycle ends and we enter the next bear market, I'll be right back at it. Dollar cost averaging like I did in 2018. And yeah, I'll probably be in the red or break even for a couple of years. That's part of the process. But if you're prepared for that and you understand the game, then the long-term rewards are massive. I've been here since late 2017. I went all in during the bear market. And yeah, I was down for a while. But today, that investment has turned into something massive. I'm not special. I'm not smarter than anyone. I'm just a regular person who's stuck to the plan. And I'm here to tell you, you can do this too. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need some secret edge. You just need the discipline and the patience to stick it through, and a little courage to be different from the herd. I've got nothing to sell you. I'm just telling you the truth. This is possible. This is real. And this is how regular people build wealth in crypto. And as always, I'm not a financial advisor. None of this is financial advice. I'm just a guy who loves crypto and shares what I see happening for fun.